Week 6 in the NFL feels like we're already off and running. Week 5, old news as of 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern, when Robert Saleh was fired as the head coach of the New York Jets. We know that Week 6 wraps up with Jeff Ulbrich making his debut as interim head coach against the Bills Monday Night Football. We know the week starts off Thursday, 49ers at Seahawks. We just talked with Mike Garafolo about that.
Huge game.
Let's run through. I want to just run through the rest of this slate. All right. Jaguars at Bears. That's our London game this week.
That's a pretty fun game.
Rich Eisen's going to be over there. Feels like a lot on the line for both these teams. Jaguars,
yeah.
Are you going to fall to 1-5 and then once again feel like the walls are closing in? Remember, they're doing 2 straight in London. So you're hoping everybody's coming back, especially after the Jets now got the ball rolling on certain changes. The Bears, you're coming off of the most complete game you've played, albeit against probably the worst opponent you've played in terms of the talent level with Carolina. But you're seeing Caleb Williams get better and better. Trevor Lawrence was on top of his game. So 2 quarterbacks both coming off their best game of the season.
Yep.
That'll be a fun one. Early Sunday morning on NFL Network. Maybe the game of the week. It's in the 1 p.m. Eastern slot on Sunday. It is Commanders at Ravens.
Oh, baby.
It is Lamar Jackson.
Highest total of the week.
Who, the moment he saw the field, was an NFL MVP back in 2019. The Commanders, who have Jaden Daniels. You said it early on during my stint here, Brockman. Forget the Rookie of the Year. If you were voting for MVP right now, he might get some votes.
He might get some votes, yeah. He
Played
might be
at a very high level.
fifth.
This is the best team, the best quarterback, outside of Joe Burrow, perhaps, depending how you feel about those guys. But definitely the best defense that he's had to face so far. So let's see, can the Magic once again be there? This is a rivalry game of sorts, right? It's an interconference game, but it's in that general area there.
Mid-Atlantic. The battle for Mid-Atlantic,
That's right. Exactly. So, I mean, that's a pretty substantial one.
I like it.
I don't even know if Lamar Jackson's the MVP of his own team. Derrick Henry's pretty good right now.
That's spicy.
Mark Andrews, we saw him last week, right? He had a catch. They've got weapons they're not even using.
He's had a catch.
Right now for Baltimore. He did. He had one catch. Cardinals at Packers. Sneaky good game.
That's fun.
The Packers have had, talk about a wild start to the season. All right, so you're going to go to Brazil in week 1. Your quarterback is going to suffer what looks like a catastrophic knee injury.
Dude, out for
but
the
then
year.
You're going to find
right?
out, even before you're home the next morning, that he's probably going to be okay. Malik Willis is going to start week 2 and week 3. Who's Malik Willis? Yeah, the guy who wasn't on your team 3 weeks before. He's going to start. You're going to win both those games. Then Sam Darnold and the Vikings are going to come in and go up and down the field on you and break out to like a 21-point lead. And then you're going to go to L.A. and beat the Rams. That's a wild first 5 weeks. Now you're facing the Cardinals who, last week they went on the road to San Francisco. Got an important win. You're seeing Kyler Murray playing at a good level. We had Larry Fitzgerald on this show earlier today talking about what he likes about Marvin Harrison Jr. When Kyler needed a big play in that game, he went to Marvin. And once a game, Marvin Harrison Jr. has one of those plays where you're like, he did catch that. He did. He made that play.
What the?
But a big challenge for Nick Rallis, Jonathan Gannon, and that defense, too, because the Packers, even with some of the moving parts they've had, obviously Christian Watson's hurt now. Romeo Doubs, we'll see this week. Is he back? Is he playing? They're giving every indication that he will be. That's going to be, I think, a really interesting matchup. That Packers team, regardless of what their record is, they're going to be there. Mm-hmm. They're going to be there as we get to the end of this thing. Texans at Patriots. Brockman, how are you feeling on that one?
I hope we lose by 40.
I think you share 40. 40 seems aggressive. What if Drake May's playing? What do you want to happen?
Then I just want him to play well. Still lose. Got to maintain that high draft position. But let's play well and let's show some flashes.
That'll be over the next day here. We'll see whether or not potentially they could be moving away from Jacoby Brissett.
We haven't heard anything on that, right? Mike Reese had a story yesterday that he was hearing in the
Raiders,
building,
What happens with the Saints? There's a lot of quarterback questions up in the air right now. Saints host the Bucs, a Buccaneers team that, but for one just kind of sloppy, weird, bad game, they've looked pretty good this season.
Yeah, Baker's looked awesome.
If it's not Derek Carr, and it's Todd Bowles going against Jake Haener or maybe Spencer Rattler, I would not want to be those guys going against that defense in my debut.
Pick up
Jake
the
Haener's
Bucs in fantasy.
He's the number 2 quarterback. He's very mature for his age. Spencer Rattler obviously had a lot of highlights in his time at Oklahoma and South Carolina.
And he played well in the preseason.
He played well in the preseason. Got the crap beat out of him last year at South Carolina, but kept answering the bell every week. I would think it's Haener. He's the number 2 quarterback for a reason here. You're hoping Derek Carr can get back, but an oblique injury at a time you're on a 3-game skid and you're going home. We've seen some great Bucs-Saints rivalry games, too. I just want to know, will Mike Evans and Marshawn Lattimore come to blows again? Because that seems to happen every time they play in the Superdome.
Do cats and dogs fight? Yes.
That is a fun...
things we come to accept.
That is a fun NFC South divisional game. Browns and Eagles, this one feels like... I mean, every week right now with the Browns, you feel like...
It's just getting worse.
If they don't get this one, it's going to be bad. There's just...
They look worse every week.
There's a disconnect on offense right now. And it's not all on that guy, Deshaun Watson. That's where everybody wants to point. Certainly, he can play better. He does not look right now like the guy back in 2019 when he was leading the league in passing for the Texans, or 2020. But it's the offensive line that's totally beat up, and the guys that are out there aren't playing well. They had injuries last year, too. They also had Bill Callahan last year. They found a way. The offensive line has been brutal. When Deshaun Watson does put a pass on a guy, Jerry Jeudy drops it in the end zone. It's the whole thing looks hard. Everything looks difficult. And defensively, they're not the number 1 Jim Schwartz unit right now. They are something of a shell of that. Is part of that you're getting taxed because every time you go to the sideline, you're like, well, I got about 5 minutes to catch my breath here, and I'm going to be back out there. That's probably part of it. The whole thing just isn't connected. The special team's been really good. Other than that, the whole thing has been just disappointing. I think that's fair to say. But the Eagles, to this point, too. There's plenty of Eagles fans who are looking at the Jets building and going, hey, they're making a move. Robert Saleh didn't go to the playoffs in 3 years. Nick Sirianni, same hiring class, has been to the playoffs every year. He went to a Super Bowl. They got to figure it out. They're going to get the receivers back, or they should. Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown will probably know more on that tomorrow. They should get those guys back. That's going to make a big impact on a team that plainly hasn't had their horses here in recent weeks. Colts at Titans. No offense to anyone involved. Let's skip past that one. Chargers at Broncos. Chargers at Broncos, I think, is a fun game. Broncos on a 3-game winning streak.
Yeah.
You don't watch the Broncos play right now and go, boy, you don't want to face this team. But they're finding ways at the end. Bo Nix keeps making plays, even more with his legs than his arm. That defense, Vance Joseph, man. Vance Joseph, who, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say he was on the brink of being fired after like 4 games last year, but certainly it looked like he might be on the brink of being fired after 4 games. They had that game in Miami where they gave up 70, and it was like, this is the worst defense in NFL history. And then lo and behold, they figured it out. And they got better over the course of the season. Right now, this is one of the best units in football. And you have to credit George Payton for the way that he's drafted. I mean, for the fortitude to say, I'm going to pass on Justin Fields and take Pat Surtain. Pat Surtain's now one of the best young players in the league. You know, moves like that are how you get better. That group is really impressive. They don't still have, you don't look at their skill group and go, you know, again, we're scared of these guys. They didn't even play. Greg Dulcich was a healthy scratch last week. Cortland Sutton and a bunch of guys that nobody really knows. Javonte Williams, it's kind of been stop and start. He played better last week, but you don't have a bunch of guys. In other words, you don't right now have Drew Brees and Marcus Colston / Michael Thomas and Darren Sproles / Alvin Kamara. You don't have Jimmy Graham. You don't have the typical Sean Payton parts, but you are getting better. You got Steelers at Raiders. I think we've talked quite a bit about that one. We still don't know, as we sit here right now, 2:35 Eastern, 11:35 Pacific, who's even starting a quarterback for either of those teams. It seems like it's Justin Fields for Pittsburgh, but Mike Tomlin said for the first time Russell Wilson's going to be a full participant. So we'll see as we go through the week here. Falcons at Panthers. Again, we'll skip past that one. Falcons have been there. They've been winning games at the end. The Panthers are just trying to figure it out. We always knew it was an uphill battle personnel-wise. Lions at Cowboys. TJ,
yes, sir.
I'm gonna give you the floor on this one. Okay. Lions at Cowboys, baby. This feels like a big one.
It is a big one. By the way, have you guys seen, and I love him, but have you seen Amon-Ra St. Brown's Little Caesars commercial?
Yes.
I mean, let the second guy do that. Who said that? Go ahead and do this commercial where the man just says the word meat over and over again. It just took me out. I'm just going to say that. So because of that, we have the advantage going into this game, Tom.
Wow. TJ, it took us 4 days to really give you the floor on a Cowboys topic, and your response is Amon-Ra St. Brown talking about meat. That's it? That's all you got. It's one of the marquee matchups in the entire NFL.
Look, man,
How confident are you? Your Cowboys are beat up.
I'm riding high off of that Steelers win. But again, man, any win that we can get when we don't have Lawrence and Parsons, I mean, that's just gravy, right? So
Marshawn Nealon's beat up now, too, so your pass rush is severely depleted.
But like I've said all year, all summer, when we were talking about the Cowboys not picking up players or adding players, these are all professionals, Tom, and they have to step up. And I'm expecting people. Jalen Tolbert last week stepped up. Demarion Overshawn stepping up. Mozzie Smith has been stepping up a little. So we just got to get our offensive line together, and that's going to be tough when you've got, Aiden Hutchinson coming and ready to wreck shop. So I'm really excited for this game. The Lions got something to prove after what happened in their last matchup. But
did Ben Johnson, Dan Campbell dare to run a tackle-eligible play? I think we get it on the first series. I think it is absolutely in the game plan.
As a fan of stories, yeah. And I know Brock
knowing how those guys think, knowing how Ben thinks.
You want this.
Absolutely, you will have something in the plan. I don't know if we see it for sure, but there will be something in the plan. Is it going to be the same play? Is it going to be a variation off that play? Is it going to be something really cool that we don't even know about? There will be something in there with Dan Skipper tackle.
We know only the Chiefs are able to pull over these tomfoolery type plays anyway. So, but I hope they try it.
The Lions ran. What did they call the play last week? The throwback to Goff, and that one's been cooking in the playbook for 3 years, according to Goff.
Sick.
Yeah.
Alcatraz. That was the name of the play.
Yeah.
But yeah, looking forward to it.
Sunday Night Football, Bengals at Giants. This is like one of those that feels like a Week 6 elimination game. The Giants finally have some upward trajectory. It's at home. It's at MetLife Stadium. You want to be taken for real? You got to beat teams like this. You got to beat Joe Burrow. Yeah. For the Bengals, you're 1-4. A loss would make you 1-5.
Eesh.
That would escalate quickly. Now you're talking about legit maybe needing to run the table. At least need to win 9 or 10 of your remaining games. Yep. It gets harder and harder. So that ends up being a very important game. And then Monday night, I mentioned it, Bills at Jets. As I'm talking here, I was buying time for some of the quotes from Woody Johnson.
You got them? Okay,
I
got some too.
Next, what do you got? What do you got over there?
All right, Robert? So from our buddy Mike Garafolo, who was just with us, he said, Woody Johnson says, quote, "This is one of the most talented teams that we've ever assembled by New York. Says the move to fire Robert Saleh will result in, quote, new energy and positivity that will lead to more wins starting now."
New energy. That's it. I call it the placebo effect, but it's the idea that Jeff Ulbrich, who's a different personality, guys will feel like something is different. This is starting over.
Woody also said he spoke to Aaron Rodgers last night, but didn't discuss Robert Saleh specifically. Sure,
you're right.
Sure, what would you think if I fired a tall, bald man tomorrow morning? Didn't discuss Robert Saleh specifically. I mean, maybe, he may be meaning like I didn't ask him, hey, should we fire the guy?
Right.
But
come on.
What are you talking to the quarterback? We may be being generous with definitions from the English language.
I just from Ian Rappaport, quote, "I just felt the best way to go forward was with a new direction," said Woody. Just felt the right decision at the time.
Johnson says it's the best team he's had in 25 years.
They went to two AFC championship games.
Best football team?
If you want to read the next level of this, too.
With Mark Sanchez.
The other read of that, they went to back-to-back AFC championship games, mainly because of the defense.
Almost made the Super Bowl.
Another way to read that quote would be, Joe Douglas has assembled the best football team we've had in 25 years. Joe Douglas doesn't have a contract beyond this season, but he is employed right now, and Robert Saleh is not. And I'm not implying that there's a power struggle or Joe threw Robert under the bus. My point is, to the extent of this is Woody looking at the whole thing right now, he's clearly not there. He's putting all the pressure on the coaches who are still there and Jeff Ulbrich and Aaron Rodgers and everybody else to figure this out. Most talented team in 25 years. Those Jets teams defensively were pretty good. You didn't have a four-time NFL MVP at quarterback, but you had a guy, Mark Sanchez, who was half Aaron Rodgers' age at that time.
Mark was a good player back then.
He made enough plays. He played to the team that they were on, didn't turn the football over, made enough plays. He wasn't playing at a MVP level, but he was playing well. Aaron Rodgers, I don't think he's playing bad, but you would hope with all the pieces around him that you've placed there, and you would hope with what they gave up to give Aaron Rodgers, that you're going to hit on some of those passes. I have not yet seen if Garafolo got off his Devontae Adams question. Have you seen it? Brockman?
I haven't seen it yet.
I was going to say to Garofolo, so you're telling me on live TV that your plan is to try to get Woody Johnson investigated for tampering. Is that what you're actually saying you're going to do on this conference call? I'm hoping he gets
It'd be great.
He gets the number punched up. Woody Johnson also saying, according to Brian Costello, they're not going to find ways to win by doing the same things over and over and over. Again, a pretty clear pointing of the finger here by Woody Johnson that the issue is Robert Saleh. You fired him, so I mean I'm not like breaking news on that, but in essence you're saying the GM has put together a good enough roster, the players are good enough. We need to change what we are doing.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku Channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.